You ever been on a date, and out of nowhere he asks you something that stops you in your tracks? Not a pickup line, not small talk, but a question that feels like he's peeking into your soul, like he's trying to see the real you behind the smile. Most women hear these questions and think, oh, that's sweet, and move on. But what they don't realize is those aren't just random words. They're signs, quiet, powerful signals that he's not just interested, he's falling. And if you miss them, you might miss the moment love was quietly trying to step into your life. When a man asks, "What made you the way you are?" it can sound like a simple curiosity, but the truth is this question is a window into something much deeper. It's not just small talk or a conversation filler. It's emotional exploration. This kind of question doesn't come from a place of casual interest. It comes from a place of connection, and most importantly, it comes from someone who has started to care. When a man begins to feel something more than attraction, when he starts to feel emotionally pulled toward a woman, his mind naturally starts wondering about her story. He's no longer content with just who she is in the moment. He wants to understand what came before. Why does she move the way she does? What made her so guarded? Why does her face light up when she talks about certain things but stay quiet when others come up? This question is his attempt to go beneath the surface. He's trying to piece together the puzzle of your heart. There's a subtle but powerful difference between a man who notices you and a man who wants to know you. The former will compliment your smile. The latter will ask, who put that smile there? And who tried to take it away? That's the kind of emotional depth this question holds. It's about tracing your emotional fingerprints, not for the sake of drama or curiosity, but because he's feeling invested in the woman behind the exterior. When he asks this, he's looking for context. He's trying to make sense of your behaviors, your boundaries, your dreams, and your hesitations. Maybe you're incredibly independent. He wants to know why. Maybe you have a hard time trusting people. He's curious about where that began. It's not about judging your past, it's about understanding it so he can connect with you in a way that honors your emotional journey. This is especially significant because many women, especially those who've lived through more years and experiences, can be guarded without even realizing it. Over time, people get used to putting on emotional armor, especially if they've been disappointed or hurt in love. And when a woman has that emotional strength and confidence, it's easy to assume she doesn't want to open up. But a man asking this kind of question, he's offering a chance for vulnerability. He's saying, I see you're strong, but I want to know what you've survived. I want to know the woman behind the strength. What's important to notice is that this question doesn't always come out perfectly. It may not even be those exact words. It could sound like, were you always this independent? Or, who taught you to think like that? Or, did something happen to make you so protective of your time? The wording isn't what matters. It's the intention behind it. That intention is connection. He's trying to emotionally map the route that led you to who you are now. And let's be honest, most people don't ask this kind of thing unless they're emotionally invested, because the answer is usually deep, can be raw. It requires presence and patience to even receive a response. So when a man opens that door, it means he's ready to hold space for something real. He's not just falling for your image, he's falling for your story. And when a man starts falling in love, he starts listening, not just to your voice, but to your history. He starts wondering about the moments that made you tough, the people who shaped you, the experiences that broke you open or built you up. All of it. That question is his silent way of saying, I don't just want you, I want to understand you. When a man asks you, where do you see yourself in a few years? It might sound like he's making polite conversation, but beneath the surface, this question carries far more weight than it seems. It's not about your 5-year plan or your career aspirations in a robotic sense. It's a subtle yet powerful emotional probe. He's asking not just to know what your goals are, but to understand if there's room for him in that vision. It's about alignment, direction, compatibility, and most of all, possibility. This kind of question doesn't usually show up in casual flings. A man who's just looking for something short-term rarely cares where your life is headed. He's focused on the moment, not the future. But when a man starts to develop real feelings, his mind shifts from now to later. He starts to think about how you fit into his world and how he might fit into yours. That question is his first step in seeing if your lives could potentially walk in the same direction. He's trying to learn about your lifestyle, your values, and your pace. Are you looking to settle down soon? Are you thinking about changing careers? Do you plan to move to another city or stay close to your roots? All of these things matter to a man who's thinking about the long term. He doesn't ask this question to quiz you. He asks because part of him is genuinely trying to figure out if what he's starting to feel could actually work in real life. Men often get a bad reputation for avoiding emotional depth, but the truth is, when they're falling for someone, they start assessing not just the connection, but the practicality of that connection. Love, for them, isn't always fireworks and passion. It's also about, can we build something? That's what this question really signals. It's a test of emotional and logistical compatibility, not in a cold, calculated way, but in a way that says, I'm interested enough to want to know if we're heading in a direction that makes sense together. There's also something deeply respectful about a man asking this. It means he values your goals. He's not assuming your world will revolve around him. He's not just thinking about how you could enhance his life. He's genuinely curious about where you're going. Because if he's falling for you, he wants to support that direction, or at least make sure he doesn't disrupt it. It's a signal that he's starting to treat your future as something that matters to him too. For older women especially, this question can catch them off guard. They're used to being self-sufficient, to steering their own lives with confidence and clarity. When someone comes along and asks about their vision, not to judge it or redirect it, but to understand it, it can feel unfamiliar, even disarming. But this is often a man's way of showing respect and emotional investment without putting it into flowery words. He's saying, I see you. I want to know where you're going, and I'm wondering if I can walk beside you. Pay attention to the way he listens after asking. A man who's just filling time with chit-chat doesn't remember your answer, but a man who's falling for you, he remembers the details. He brings them up again. He connects your dreams to what he says later. Maybe he even starts talking about the future in a way that quietly includes you. It's subtle. It's not a grand proposal, but it's the beginning of something real. When a man starts asking about your future, it often means he's beginning to imagine a place for himself in it. When a man asks you, do you believe in soulmates? It might seem like a romantic or even philosophical question, but it often comes from a place much deeper than most people realize. This question isn't just about abstract belief. It's emotional curiosity disguised as light conversation. A man who asks this isn't trying to pass the time or impress you with deep thoughts. He's doing something vulnerable. He's testing the waters of your emotional world to see if it mirrors something he's beginning to feel, but might not fully understand yet. When a man starts to fall in love, there's a shift in how he thinks about relationships. He may start out practical, realistic, even guarded, but once emotions start to build, his internal compass begins to lean towards something more meaningful. He starts to wonder if this connection he feels with you is rare, if maybe, just maybe, it's not something that happens every day. So when he asks if you believe in soulmates, he's not just asking about your opinion, he's trying to gauge whether you're emotionally available to experience something deeper, whether you're open to the idea of a bond that goes beyond logic and timing, a connection that feels destined. What makes this question particularly powerful is that it's layered. On the surface, it's a fun, harmless topic, but underneath, it carries emotional risk, because he's putting out a piece of his heart and waiting to see how you respond. He might be wrestling with his own feelings, unsure if he's overthinking things or if what he feels for you is as rare as it seems. By asking this, he's inviting you into that uncertainty, gently asking if you're willing to consider that this could be more than a passing connection. It's his way of saying, without saying it, I think there's something different about us. Do you feel it too? It's also a window into his emotional depth. A man who's emotionally closed off doesn't usually go near questions like this. He keeps things surface level. He avoids anything that might expose his inner thoughts or hint at vulnerability. But a man who's falling is different. He becomes more introspective. He starts noticing how you make him feel, how conversations with you don't feel like the ones he's had with anyone else. So he starts exploring those feelings, and one of the ways he does that is by inviting you into a conversation about belief in deeper connection. He's not looking for a right or wrong answer. He's listening for resonance, for emotional alignment. Because if you say yes, or even, I've never thought about it, but maybe, it gives him permission to keep feeling what he's feeling. If you shut it down completely, he may retreat emotionally, thinking maybe he's reading the moment wrong. What's really telling is how he responds after asking. If he leans in, listens, and opens up about his own experiences, he's showing that this question wasn't random. It was personal. It was intentional. It means he's begun to value the emotional space between you, and he's trying to explore what's possible there. He's not trying to rush you into love or extract a declaration. He's just gently asking, is there room in your heart for something real? Not all men will ask this outright. Some may phrase it differently, like, do you think there's one person out there for everyone? Or, have you ever felt like you were meant to meet someone? No matter how it's worded, the intention is the same. He's testing emotional depth. He's wondering about timing, chemistry, fate. Not in a dramatic way, but in a way that reveals he's starting to feel something he can't ignore. When a man asks, what's something you've never told anyone, he's not making small talk. This is a deeply intentional question that reveals far more about his emotional state than most people realize. It's a doorway to vulnerability, a test of emotional trust, and a strong signal that he's not just enjoying your company. He's starting to crave something deeper. Men don't typically invite emotional exposure unless they're genuinely interested in more than just the surface. When this question comes up, it's because he's reaching a point where emotional connection matters to him. He wants to step into a space with you that goes beyond comfort and chemistry. He wants truth, intimacy, realness. This kind of question often comes at a moment when the emotional tone between you has already started to shift. You may have shared laughs, light flirtation, maybe even personal stories. But this question is different. It's an emotional mirror. When a man asks you what you've never told anyone, he's not only asking you to trust him, he's also hinting that he may want to share something about himself that he's been holding back. In other words, he's testing the depth of emotional safety. He wants to see if this space between you is strong enough to hold something raw and unpolished. It's important to understand that asking this kind of question involves risk for him too. Vulnerability is not always a comfortable place for men, especially if they've been raised to equate emotional openness with weakness. So when he steps into this space with you, it often means he's been thinking about what kind of connection he wants. And he's beginning to hope that it's one where masks can come off. He may be asking you this because he wants permission to take his own mask off. He wants to see if he can trust you with the pieces of him that not everyone gets to see. What's interesting is that he might not even be fully aware of why he's asking. Sometimes these questions rise up from emotion, not logic. He may just feel something real building between you and instinctively want to deepen that. This is his way of saying, let's go somewhere more honest. And the way you respond matters, not just what you say, but how you hold space for the moment. If you dismiss the question or make it light, it tells him that maybe now isn't the time to open up. But if you engage, even gently, you show him that emotional truth is welcome here. For many women, especially those who are older and have had to build strong emotional walls, this kind of question can feel jarring. They're not always used to men wanting to go deep early. They may even suspect a hidden agenda. But often, this question isn't about prying, it's about connection. It's about seeing if there's something sacred between you that goes beyond surface compatibility. A man falling in love becomes increasingly interested in who you are when you're not performing, when you're not polished, when you're just you. He wants to know what's under the armor. Even if he doesn't say it outright, the question comes from a longing to experience emotional closeness. He's starting to care about more than your presence. He's starting to care about your story, your fears, your hidden thoughts. And he's hoping deep down that once you open up, it gives him the courage to do the same, because what he really wants to know is not just what you've never told anyone, but whether he can become the person you feel safe enough to tell. When a man asks, "What does love mean to you?" he's not just trying to spark a romantic conversation. He's revealing that his emotions are shifting from interest to something far more significant. This question is deeply personal, not because of the words themselves, but because of the vulnerability behind them. It's a sign that he's not just curious about your experiences, he's trying to understand your emotional framework. He's asking how you define love, how you feel it, how you recognize it, and most importantly, what you expect from it. A man who's only in it for fun won't go near this conversation, but a man who's starting to fall will, because he's thinking not just about you, but about you and him together. This question usually comes up after some emotional rapport has already been built. Maybe there's been deep conversations, shared laughter, even emotional support, but now he wants to know how you see love. He's trying to figure out if the way he's beginning to feel lines up with what love looks like in your world. Is love security, freedom, passion, peace? Is it daily commitment or big gestures? Is it soft and consistent or intense and consuming? He's not asking to judge here. He's asking to understand. Because if he's starting to care for you, he wants to know what being loved by you would feel like, and whether he's capable of giving you the kind of love you believe in. What makes this question so powerful is that it's both intellectual and emotional. It forces a person to reflect, not just recall. You can't answer it with surface level details. It requires honesty, self-awareness, maybe even past pain. And that's the doorway to intimacy. A man asking this isn't just thinking about now, he's thinking about what's real. He may not be ready to say he's falling, but his desire to ask this tells you that he's already searching for something meaningful. That question is a clue. He wants a deeper connection, and he wants to know if you're someone who wants that too. This question also opens the door for both people to speak their emotional language. Maybe you define love as being seen and heard. Maybe he defines it as loyalty and consistency. Sharing those beliefs gives both people a foundation to work from. And he's paying close attention, even if he pretends he's just making conversation. He's listening to your tone, your emotions, your past references, the way your eyes soften or harden depending on the memory. He's studying how you love, because if he's falling for you, he wants to love you the right way. For women who've had complicated pasts, who've experienced heartbreak, or have had to redefine what love means to them over time, this question can feel emotionally loaded. But that's exactly why it matters so much, because when a man is falling, he doesn't just want the polished version of love. He wants to know what love looks like after life happens. He's asking, what do I need to know about your heart? And that's an incredibly vulnerable place for a man to go, especially if he's been burned before. But the very act of asking shows he's brave enough to want emotional truth, not just emotional comfort. Pay attention to how this question shows up. Sometimes it's direct, other times it's woven into a conversation about relationships or heartbreak, but the core remains. He wants to know what you're hoping to build, what you dream about, what you fear, and what you crave, because somewhere inside, he's already wondering if he might be the one to offer it. Not perfectly, not immediately, but with honesty, intention, and heart. When a man asks, what do you need to feel safe with someone? He's not asking out of politeness. He's asking from a place of genuine emotional awareness, and more importantly, emotional intention. This question means he's not only noticing your presence, but beginning to care about your emotional comfort within that presence. It shows that he's thinking beyond attraction and connection. He's thinking about what kind of space he needs to create for you to feel like you can actually relax into him. That's a rare question, and it almost never comes from a man who isn't emotionally invested. Feeling safe isn't just about physical security, it's about emotional stability. It's about trust, consistency, and presence. When a man begins to fall for a woman, especially a woman who has lived through real life, real experiences, real love and real loss, he starts to realize that love can't grow without safety. So he asks, not because he's trying to check off a list of qualities, but because he's trying to figure out how to show up in a way that allows you to exhale, to let your guard down, to feel like you don't have to perform, protect, or prove anything. This question often comes after he's noticed your strength. Maybe you're the kind of woman who handles everything on her own. Maybe you don't open up easily. Maybe you move like someone who's learned to carry the weight by herself. And he respects that, but he also wants to understand the emotional terrain behind that strength. He wants to know what it would take, not to break down your walls, but to be invited past them. That's a huge distinction. A man who is falling doesn't force connection. He earns it. And questions like this are part of how he does that. It also says something about his maturity. Most people focus on what they want in a relationship, what they need, what they expect. But when a man starts asking what you need to feel safe, he's stepping into a higher emotional space. He's showing empathy. He's trying to understand your pace, your pain points, your history, not so he can avoid them, but so he can hold them with care. He wants to know if he's capable of being the kind of person who doesn't just like you, but protects your peace too. That's not romance for show. That's love with intention. It's also his way of laying a foundation for emotional intimacy. Because once he knows what helps you feel safe, he starts adjusting his behavior to match it. If you tell him that consistency matters more than sweet words, he'll try to be more steady. If you say that honesty, even when it's hard, is what makes you trust someone, he'll make an effort to communicate more openly. This is how love begins to build quietly, not just through sparks, but through effort, through listening, through small but meaningful shifts. For many women, especially those who've been hurt before, this question can feel both beautiful and terrifying. Beautiful because it feels rare. Terrifying because it challenges the part of you that's used to being self-reliant. But when a man is falling, this is the very question he's most curious about. He's not asking for a shortcut into your heart. He's asking what it would take to meet you there fully and safely, not with pressure, but with presence. And when a man starts caring about your emotional safety more than his own ego, that's a clear sign he's not just interested in you, he's already falling. If a man starts asking you these kinds of questions, where your life is headed, what love means to you, whether you believe in soulmates, what you've never told anyone, or what makes you feel safe, he's doing far more than making conversation. He's opening doors. He's inviting you into his emotional world, and most of all, he's revealing that this isn't just about chemistry anymore. It's about connection. These are not the questions of a man who's playing games or passing time. These are the quiet signals of a man who's falling, slowly, deliberately, deeply. The mistake many women make, especially those who've grown used to protecting their hearts, is brushing off these moments or underestimating what they mean. But if you listen closely, if you pay attention, not just to the words, but to the intention behind them, you'll hear something powerful. He's not just asking about your life, he's trying to see if he has a place in it.